In this training, we're going to talk about how you as an athlete can take control of your self-talk. So let's get started. When we're discussing how to master self-talk as an athlete, we first need to get into what even is self-talk. Now, self-talk is the conversation that goes on within your mind, right? It's the conversation that you have, the way you speak to yourself before practice, during practice, before a game, during a game, after a game. It's as simple as that. It is the thoughts that you have. Now, the reason it's so important is because the way that you speak to yourself is going to have an impact on the way that you feel. So if you speak to yourself highly, you might play with more confidence. But if you speak to yourself negatively, you're probably going to play with less confidence. The same is going to hold true for anxiety, focus, and any other feelings you want to have. The way that you speak to yourself is going to lead to the way that you feel. So what we're going to first focus on is negative self-talk. And then we're going to talk about positive self-talk. And then I'm going to show you some examples of each of them so that you can kind of get a better understanding of it before we get into the practice of actually altering the self-talk for you. So negative self-talk, what's going to happen when you exhibit it is that it's going to lead to anxiety. The more you speak down to yourself, or even the more worrisome you speak to yourself, this is going to lead to anxiety. If you're saying, I hope I don't mess this up, I hope I don't make that mistake, that is really causing this fretting and this worrying to happen, which is going to lead to anxiety. Then another thing is that it leads to low self-confidence. One of the main things I see when I'm working with athletes is that if they're speaking to themselves negatively, if they're speaking down to themselves, whether they've just made a mistake or whether it's just in general, that is really going to have a negative impact on their confidence. It is so difficult to play with high self-confidence if simultaneously you are speaking down to yourself. So what we have to realize is that negative self-talk is going to directly lead to low self-confidence. Another negative side effect is perfectionism. The more that you speak to yourself, such as, that wasn't good enough. If you say that wasn't good enough, that's going to lead to more perfectionism. So that's one that's going to happen when you have negative self-talk. Then fear of failure. The more you're talking about, I hope I don't make a mistake, or if you say, I suck, I just can't believe I did that. There are a couple things and a couple reasons why that's going to impact fear of failure. Number one is if you say, I hope I don't make a mistake, right there you are fearing failing. But when you make a mistake, if you begin speaking down to yourself, that's likely going to cause very negative emotions. So you're going to feel very badly after that mistake. What can happen is if you do that over and over and over again, and those negative emotions keep growing worse and worse, that can lead to fear of failure because you begin to fear making a mistake. Not so much because of the mistake, but because of your emotional reaction to that mistake. So when you speak down to yourself, that can lead to fear of failure. And then we have low self-worth. If you're speaking down to yourself, you're going to lower that internal self-image. You're going to lower the self-worth you have. Then benefits of positive self-talk. So inverse to negative self-talk, we have positive self-talk. But it can also be called productive self-talk because I was working with a basketball player this year and she was telling me how I don't always want to speak positively to myself. If I'm during a game or if I made a mistake, I don't want to speak positively. And I thought, well, positively isn't always the opposite of speaking negatively to yourself. We just don't want you to be tearing yourself down. So maybe it's more productive. So saying, come on, pick it up. You know better than that. You can do this. That's more productive. It's not negative. You're not tearing yourself down definitively, but it's also not positive saying, oh, I'm so great. I'm such a great player. There's time for that and there's time for productive, but it's also about you understanding what's going to be the best fit for me. So this is benefits of positive/productive self-talk. So you're going to have increased self-confidence, right? The more you speak up to yourself, the more you speak highly to yourself, the more confident you're going to feel. You're going to have stronger focus. Self-talk is often overlooked when it comes to training focus, but it can be such a powerful way of increasing your focus. And one of the ways that I've found works best is by creating a thought-stopping phrase. So if you find yourself being distracted, you come up with a phrase that you're going to say to yourself that is positive, productive, and it brings you back into this present moment. You memorize that, and whenever you find your attention beginning to drift and you become distracted, you just repeat that thought-stopping phrase to yourself. So that's how positive self-talk can be used to strengthen your focus. Then it can also lead to greater motivation. If you're speaking up to yourself, if you're speaking highly to yourself, you're going to feel more motivated to play. It's going to increase resilience, right? If you can say, come on, you can do this. I got this. Come on, pick it up. That's going to help you be more resilient when practice gets tough or after you make a mistake. After you make a mistake, you need to be resilient. You need to be able to get your focus back on the game. You need to be able to bounce back and fail fast. One of the best ways you can do that is by taking control of what you're thinking in that moment. And by taking control of what you're thinking, you can actually increase your resilience because you can get yourself moving forward rather than being weighing down by the mistake that you just made. And then we have a calm mind. This is the last one. This is the last benefit I want to talk about because positive self-talk, productive self-talk can really help you instill that calm mind. And this is where we find the inverse to anxiety. Anxiety happens when you are so worried about what's going to happen, right? You're worried, am I going to make a mistake? I don't want to get out this at bat. I don't want to miss this shot. I don't want to drop this catch. All of that is anxiety, and that's anxious thinking. When you can start speaking to yourself, using your breath to really calm your mind, that is going to be the opposite of that anxiety. So you're not focused so much on getting rid of your anxiety, but now you're focused on how can I create a calm mind going into a game, or how can I create a calm mind during a game. Now that we've gone over the negative side effects of negative self-talk and the positive benefits of positive self-talk, let's get into some examples. So examples of negative self-talk include, I suck, why did I do that, you're such an idiot, I knew I couldn't make that play, here we go again, right? Do any of those sound familiar? Do any of those seem like something you said to yourself recently? If so, then you probably have some negative self-talk happening. Then some examples of positive self-talk are going to include, I've got this, right? I believe in myself. I am confident. I trust in my skills. I practice hard and I am prepared. All of those are very productive, very positive. They're very motivating. And you can see a clear opposite from the negative self-talk that I just said, the examples I just gave, and these more positive self-talk examples. Now let's get into how you can actually develop positive self-talk for yourself. Now what I'm going to do is take you through a 3-step exercise. It's going to include recognizing negative self-talk, becoming more aware of your thinking, and then also reprogramming with affirmations. So we're going to go a little bit deeper into each of these, beginning with step number 1. Step number 1 is to recognize negative self-talk. Before you can work on changing the way that you're thinking, you have to first uncover the thought patterns that you currently present. Now, in order to recognize your thought patterns, what I think is a very powerful thing to do is some journal writing. If you can find a journal, or maybe just write this in your phone, and for a week or so, really keep track of your thoughts. It might seem tedious, and you also might not want to come face to face with how negative you're speaking to yourself. But if you can really outline what you're thinking on a daily basis, and you do that over the span of a week, that can really help you truly uncover what your natural thought patterns are. So for step number 1, I recommend getting yourself a journal or writing it in your phone, but keeping track and really coming face to face with your negative self-talk. Then step number 2 is where you're going to become more aware of your thinking in general. Now, first you have outlined what your negative self-talk currently is. So what your negative thought patterns are right now. But then the reason you have to become more aware of your thinking is for what's going to happen really after step number 3. This is kind of a cool step because it branches off into what's going to happen in the future. When you're not aware of what you're thinking during a game, then when you go up for this at bat, you're not going to know what you're thinking. When you take this shot, you're not going to know what was going through your head. The power of becoming aware of your thoughts is that once you're aware of them, you can work on stopping negative thoughts and you can work on implementing more positive and productive thoughts. But what first has to happen is you need to become aware of those thoughts. In step number 1, you outlined your negative thoughts. That's kind of an outside exercise you have to do because we're going to use that for step number 3. But now with step number 2, it's time to really become aware and understand what are you thinking. So like I said, in order to change your thinking, you need to develop strong awareness of your thoughts. A really good exercise when it comes to becoming more aware of your thoughts is some meditation. Mindfulness meditation can really help you just become aware of your thoughts. Number 1, you gain a little bit more clarity of your mind, a little bit more clear mind. But also the practice is watching your thoughts. It's paying attention to your breath and just allowing your thoughts to be. And as that happens, you realize you can begin actually understanding what kind of thoughts are going on in your head. So if you want to become more aware of your thoughts, I recommend picking up a meditation practice. Another way is writing. Writing can be a very powerful way of becoming more aware of your thoughts, just by simply getting them onto paper every single day. You don't have to write about anything specific, but just by writing what you're thinking every day, you begin to work through your thoughts. The more you work through them, the more you understand them, the more you can actually begin changing them and taking control of them, especially during games. So that's step number 2. Now we move on to step number 3, and this is where you're actually going to reprogram with affirmations. The mind truly thrives on repetition. When you are wanting to alter your thoughts, All you need to be thinking about is repetition, repetition, repetition. What you're going to do in step number 3 is first develop a set of phrases that are going to be inverse to the set of negative self-talk phrases you outlined in step number 1. So you're going to take them. For example, if you say, I suck, you say, I'm a great player. You said, I'll never be good, I am confident, and I trust in my skills, right? You identify what is going to be the inverse for me. You write that down. You either write it in your phone, you write it on a piece of paper, you put it next to your bed, you put it in your bathroom. And then every single day, repeat those statements to yourself once or twice a day. I recommend doing it as many times a day as you want. The more repetition, the better. It's not going to take you very long. If you have a list of 10 statements, it's going to take you about 10 seconds to get through. Maybe take you 30 seconds to get through, right? It doesn't take very long. But the more you repeat those statements to yourself, the more you are reprogramming your mind to speak to yourself more positively and productively. And that's going to translate to speak more positively and productively to yourself during practices and during games. So when it comes to altering your self-talk, it's going to take time and it's going to take work. But truthfully, it's not very hard work at all. Because once you do the first initial kind of hard work when it comes to becoming more aware and outlining your thoughts and creating your positive alternatives, then we're just talking about reading them to yourself every single day. You read so many things on a daily basis. If you're in school, you read stuff. If you're on social media, you read stuff. Let's just throw something more productive into the mix and read some positive self-talk statements. To change your self-talk, all it takes is a little bit of consistency and a little bit of effort every single day. I hope you enjoyed this training on mastering self-talk for you as an athlete. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I put out 2 new videos each week on sports psychology and mental training to help you develop a championship mindset. Now, when it comes to developing a championship mindset, one of the most important things is understanding what kind of mindset, what kind of emotional state, what do I need to be thinking in order for me to perform my best? Now, I've outlined exactly that and taken you through an exercise that's going to help you figure that out for yourself in a free training that I have linked below. So go ahead and click on that and get started with that free training to finally uncover what is your championship mindset. Thank you for watching, and I wish you the best of success in all that you do.